Welcome and thank you for being here with us today. I'm Lynn.
And I'm Paul. In this session, we're exploring one of Neville Goddard's most powerful and at times most misunderstood techniques, and that's revision.
When people first encounter Neville Goddard's teachings, they're often intrigued by his bold claims that imagination creates reality. But what tends to stop people in their tracks is his idea that imagination can not only create the future, but it can also recreate the past. Revision, as Neville taught it, is not about denying what happened or pretending a painful moment didn't occur. It's changing the assumptions and feelings that are still active within us, assumptions that continue to reshape our present. He believed that by altering our internal experiences of a past event, we change its influence over our current state of consciousness. And because consciousness is the only true creative force, the outer world responds accordingly. This technique invites us to stop thinking of the past as a fixed historical fact and start seeing it as a living narrative that we have the power to reshape. That shift alone is liberating.
And that's an important distinction. The point of revision isn't to escape reality, it's to reclaim authorship of it. Many of us carry events from our past that continue to color how we think, how we behave, and even what we expect from life. We often believe our memories define us, but Neville proposed something radically different. He taught that it's not events that define us, but our assumptions about those events. He would say, what imagine makes, it can unmake. Now that's a profound idea. In essence, our remembered experience isn't a natural archive, it's an active influence. So when we revise, we're choosing a new assumption to replace the old one, basically a new narrative. Let's say someone went through a difficult breakup, and since then they've carried the belief that they're not lovable. That belief didn't just sit in the past, it shaped everything that followed. Their self-esteem, their ability to trust, their expectations in future relationships. Revision gives them a conscious method to go back, not in time, but in consciousness, and change the emotional imprint of that event. To see themselves not as rejected, but as respected, not as abandoned, but as supported. When done with sincerity and emotional conviction, that new version becomes the dominant feeling, and that is what begins to express itself in their life. Not because the past literally changed, but because they did.
That's so important. And here's where we start to bridge into that deeper metaphysical terrain of Neville's work. To Neville, time is not linear in the way we typically experience it. He often described all events, past, present, and future, as coexisting in consciousness, like frames on a film strip. What determines which frame we're experiencing is our state of being. Our consciousness selects a state, and the state selects the reality. When we revise a memory in imagination, we are essentially moving into a different state, a different frame in which the past event occurred in a new way. And because the subconscious accepts what we impress upon it with feeling, it takes that revised memory as real. The shift then is not only psychological, it's structural. We're not simply reinterpreting something, we're changing the emotional cause that would have kept projecting itself forwards. You see, the outer experiences are, in Neville's words, nothing more than the out-picturing of inner conversations. If we don't change the inner dialogue, we repeat the same cycle, and revision interrupts that cycle.
And let's be clear, this is not about magical thinking. Revision works, in part because it interrupts the emotional and neurological pathways that keep us stuck in the past. On a practical level, when you stop replaying an incident in its painful form and begin rehearsing a more empowering version, you're rewiring your brain. You're also shifting your emotional response, which impacts how you carry yourself. how you relate to others, and the kinds of situations you magnify. Neville emphasized that the subconscious mind does not differentiate between what is real and what is vividly imagined. To it, the emotional experience is what matters. So when you play a revised scene with true emotional involvement, when you feel the relief, the forgiveness, the joy, you're giving your subconscious a new blueprint to follow. One of Neville's most striking metaphors was the garden. He described memory as a field where yesterday's experiences have taken root, and imagination as the pruning shears. Each night, he encouraged his students to mentally go through the day, revise anything that felt off, and replace it with what should have happened. The idea was that by pruning away the unwanted experiences, you cultivate a better harvest for tomorrow. The seeds you plant through imagination today become the circumstances of your life tomorrow.
And there are so many testimonials, both from Neville's time and today, where people used revision to alter everything from personal relationships to financial situations. And regardless of whether you interpret those changes as shifts in energy, consciousness, or parallel outcomes, the common factor is this: the individual changed their story. That's what revision is ultimately about. You're no longer carrying the same version of yourself that you were yesterday. You're not beholden to the person who made that mistake, or who was mistreated, or who felt limited. You're choosing to consciously re-author that chapter so you can move forward with a different sense of identity. And I think that's one of the most healing aspects of revision. It's not just the techniques for manifesting outcomes. It's a spiritual tool for self-liberation. It allows forgiveness. It allows self-compassion. And it restores personal power where there was once helplessness, guilt, or shame.
So, how do you start practicing it? It begins with choosing a specific event that you'd like to revise. You might go through your day and find a moment where you felt out of alignment. Perhaps it was something someone said, something you wish you'd handled differently. Then, in a quiet, focused state, ideally just before sleep, you replay that scene, but change it. You alter the dialogue, the ending, the emotional tone. You make it align with your values and desires, and you do this until the new version feels more natural than the old one. Neville said, imaginal acts become facts when they feel natural. So the goal is not to force belief, but to persist in the new assumption until it feels effortless. When that happens, the subconscious begins its work, and often outer conditions shift to reflect your inner state.
So to close this video, remember this: you're not bound by what has already happened. The past may explain some things, but it does not define you. Revision invites you to be an active participant in your own unfolding story. It teaches that imagination is not just for dreaming, it's for creating. And what you create in imagination, you can bring forth in life. Whether you're working through an old wound or simply refining your experience of daily life, revision is one of the most empowering tools available. Try it tonight and watch what begins to change. Not because the world is changing you, but because you are changing the world from within.
Thank you for being with us today. If you've used revision before, or you decide to try it, we'd love to hear your reflections in the comments.
And don't forget to subscribe for more conversations on conscious creation, imagination, and the teachings of Neville Goddard and other powerful conscious reality creators. So until next time, think differently, dream boldly, and create consciously.
I'm a quiet rebel, I don't need a shower, changing the world from the inside out, no fists in the air.